Get it? Because like the song Apple. I feel like everybody and their grandmother knows who Charli XCX is, so I'm going to spare you the time and I'm not going to introduce you to her because you know who she is. And recently, her letterboxd got leaked, and I don't even know if it was a surprise, but this woman, she knows her movies. She is really into film, and whenever I looked through her account, I was like, wow, she is extremely cultured and knows way more about movies than I do. And then I saw she had a top 4 and I was like, video idea. So basically, today I'm going to be watching Charli's favorite movie because obviously have to extend that parasocial relationship. And how can I do that? Well, I'm going to be watching her favorite movie. I have high hopes. Oh, sorry, my phone seems to be ringing. I need to get this. I'm sorry. It's a little bit rude, but yeah. Okay, sorry. Hello?
Hey, it's Pablo.
Oh yeah, hey, what's up? Okay.
I just wanted to say, please don't mention that you think you're a bigger fan because you've been listening
Okay.
since pre-brat, because nobody cares and
Sure.
it's not true.
Sure.
Okay?
Okay. That was a bit weird. Whatever. Doesn't really matter. Basically, Charli has blown up since her album Brat came out last year, and I don't want to be that person, but I've been listening to her for like 7 or 8 years, and I know that makes me objectively a bigger fan or whatever, but like I'm not here to really talk about that. But you know, like I haven't been, been listening to her for like 7 or 8 years, but whatever, you know. Yeah. Before we talk about this movie, I think it's really cool how much into film she is, because she's currently like directing something, producing something, writing things. She's acting in movies, TV shows. I respect that. This woman has so much talent, and I'm so excited to see what movies she makes alongside whatever new music she releases, because she's just an icon, and I'm just really, really excited. And I just think it's really, really cool that it's kind of not like a facade, you know. She might be like, I'm into movies, but she's genuinely like really, really into film, and I just think that is so cool. Before we're talking about the movie, I feel like I need to get changed. I'm not like in appropriate attire. Just give me 1 second. I feel like I'm like 10 years late to the party, and I'm like, hey, look, I have it too. I've clothes the same color as the album thing. It's not even the same color, but it's kind of similar. I'm so warm at this. So let's look at this movie. It's called The Addiction from 1995. And obviously, I want to know nothing about this movie. I'm just looking at the poster, and the poster looks really, really cool. I love that it's basically black and white with just a little bit of red. Doesn't give much away. I'm seeing a little bit of blood here. Is she a vampire? Because if you know me, not crazy into vampire movies, but hey, for Charli, I'll obviously watch anything. I'm very excited to watch this. If it's a vampire movie, I just hope it's fun. And if it's not a vampire movie, then I have honestly no idea what this is going to be about. But regardless, I think it's going to be really fun. And that's enough talking for me. I'm going to go watch The Addiction, and I'll give you a review after, and we'll just talk about the movie. So yeah, let's go. This is so nice. Okay, I just finished watching The Addiction, and that was... I have a lot of opinions about it, but first, what is The Addiction about? Here is the synopsis. I'm going to put it somewhere on the screen, and hopefully you know what the movie is about by now. And initially, I'm just going to be entirely honest, vampire movies, and I hate kind of like putting them all into one, because there are vampire movies that I like, but generally, every single time I watch a vampire movie, I don't know why. I'm just usually not a big fan of vampire movies. And did this movie change my opinion on kind of like vampire movies? No, it did not. I love Charli's music. I love a lot of things about her. I love her taste in movies, but just this, it did not work. And I wrote down a lot of points. So I'm going to read you my little review and tell you why this movie was interesting, thought-provoking, confusing, but also just kind of hurt my head a little bit. And I'm going to be honest, when there was like 30 minutes left of this movie, I was looking at the clock because I was like, I just kind of want it to end. And I don't like that. And I feel like this is definitely a movie I need to revisit when I'm a little bit older and definitely a little bit wiser. So let's talk about The Addiction from 1995. So I feel like this movie is unlike any vampire movie I've ever watched before. Like it's totally original, and that is one massive big thumbs up for this movie. It's not your typical blood slicked gothic fantasy. It's more of like a vampire movie stripped down to its bare bones. It's raw, philosophical, and shot entirely in black and white, and it almost feels like real life, if that life involved getting bit by a vampire and slowly losing your mind throughout the entire movie. And I feel like what stands out about this movie is how undramatic it is. There's no kind of like sexy glamour, no dramatic cape swirling theatrics, but the bite in this movie kind of felt like a gunshot. It was abrupt and brutal. Speaking of our main character, Kathleen is a philosophy student in New York. And when she gets bitten, the transformation that follows obviously isn't just physical, it's existential. And the film follows her descent into isolation and, more importantly, moral decay. And all of this is set against the backdrop of her academic studies, where she's learning about the darkest things throughout history. She's learning just about horrible things that have happened historically that I don't know if I'm allowed to actually directly say it on the channel, but just think of the worst moments in history. She's learning about them, basically. And I feel like this film parallels her transformation with these historical events in a very clever way, because it's kind of like she's becoming what she's studying, embodying the very violence and detachment she's been trying to understand. And it's interesting because as she studies these evil humans, she's slowly turning into an evil person, but she uses philosophy to kind of like justify her actions. And I think it's very interesting because every single time she finds another victim, she's like, well, did you know that this philosopher actually said this? So really, am I the bad guy, or are we all kind of bad? And it just kind of like spirals further and further, because the more into kind of like the vampire life she descends into, the more she throws these questions at random people within the movie. And so many of them went over my head, because sometimes she just says things and I'm like, what are you talking about? And it kind of feels like it fits Charli's aesthetic, especially like the character of Kathleen. She wears like those glasses, she doesn't really care, she walks around, and I can definitely see Charli liking this. I know nothing about her, but whenever I kind of see her in interviews, there's a very similar vibe, because Charli could be a vampire, honestly. But saying all of that, obviously I did not really like the movie a lot. Like, I don't know, I found the character of Kathleen to be quite irritating, and just, I don't know, I just really, it was extremely slow, which usually in movies is fine for me. Again, I don't really like vampire movies, but I don't really want to pin it down to that. I just could not care less. And the dialogue was just so boring, and then all these kind of like philosophical questions that went over my head, and that is my fault, and I'm holding my hands up, that's definitely my fault, because if I don't understand them, obviously, like, you know what I mean, I didn't understand it, and because of that I found it boring. So I feel like I need to like culture myself and come back to this in like 5 or 10 years, and maybe I'll get more out of this movie. But as I was watching this, just kind of like the speed of this movie, the dialogue, I just could not care less. And I hate kind of being extremely negative. It was not for me. This movie just wasn't for me, I guess. It kind of just felt like I was reading a philosophy book. That's like the best way I could describe this movie. If a vampire wrote a philosophy book, read a load of philosophy, and then wrote a book and then gave it to me and was like, hey, what do you think of this? I would be like, yeah, sorry, just not my thing, sorry. And this movie is obviously about addiction, but it's also about guilt, power, and what it means to be disconnected from humanity. And I think there's something in there that is very thought-provoking and very interesting when maybe done in a different style, and a style that maybe kind of like translates those ideas in a way that I would enjoy more. But those ideas themselves I do find very, very interesting and extremely thought-provoking. But I also have to respect how stripped back this movie is. I feel like a lot of vampire movies are definitely a little bit over the top. This kind of just felt like a New York movie with a vampire in there. And compared to other vampire movies, this definitely felt like the most realistic vampire movie I've ever watched. Literally just felt like somebody's life in New York. Maybe it's like a metaphor for how crazy it is to live in New York. I'm not really sure. I think it's more of a metaphor about addiction, but maybe it's a metaphor for New York or something. I don't know. But anyway, my final thoughts are, I found this movie to be quite slow. I definitely think I understand why Charli would like the aesthetics of this movie, the ideas of this movie, and the visual aesthetics more so, because I see her on stage and in interviews. I'm like, oh, yeah, I see the resemblance. I see the resemblance. I see the resemblance in character and attitudes or whatever. But for me, just not something not for me. I think I will definitely watch this again, but maybe somebody can leave me a comment explaining why this movie is a masterpiece, because I would love to know. I feel like I've yapped. I hope I've made a little bit of sense. A little bit of sense, and I'd be quite happy with myself. So if you're looking for a black and white philosophical vampire movie, this is The Addiction from 1995 is the movie for you. Please let me know if you've watched this movie because I would like to know what I'm missing. Please leave a little review. And if you haven't watched it, check it out. It's literally less than 90 minutes long. I think it's like 79, 80 minutes long. Look, you're not going to regret watching this. It's a very, very small fraction of your time. Give it a go. But I think that's me. I think that's everything I have to say about The Addiction. A cool experience, and I will definitely revisit this movie in a little while. Maybe when I'm like an old man. I think that's the right thing to do. But anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.